Welcome to MedLife Scoops, where we peel back the layers of healthcare's most intriguing minds and groundbreaking advancements. I'm your host, Dr.Priyanka, a fervent entrepreneur with a deep-rooted love for business and commitment to revolutionizing healthcare. Today, we are delighted to welcome a titan in the realm of finance and healthcare innovation, Michael Friedl. With a rich tapestry of experience spanning 35 years in the intricate world of public accounting and corporate financial management, Michael has masterfully navigated the corridors of business, serving as the backbone of both public and private companies across diverse industries. But Michael's story doesn't end there. As the co-founder and CEO of Resolution Biomedical, he has transcended the traditional boundaries of finance to co-invent groundbreaking medical technologies, holding 2 US patents that stand as a testament to his ingenuity. His global footprint, touching lives from local communities to international shores, showcases his unwavering dedication to making a tangible impact in healthcare. So buckle up as we embark on a journey through the life of a visionary who has seamlessly blended the worlds of finance and healthcare, paving the way for a brighter, healthier future. Welcome to the show, Michael. We are thrilled to have you share your extraordinary journey with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Priyanka. What a fantastic introduction. That sounds like who you're talking about. It sounds very impressive.
All you, and it's all your hidden qualities. We are just bringing it out. You're very humble to say that. So, Michael, we would like, you have a very illustrious career. Seamlessly, you bridges the realm of finance and healthcare innovation. Our listeners are intrigued by the unique journey that has led you to the forefront of medical advancement. Could you share 3 defining moments or experiences that have profoundly shaped your journey from financial expert to a healthcare innovator?
Well, it's interesting. I think that the moments come before my career started. I think, inherently a very curious person. And I like to look for ways to solve problems. And as someone who has become interested in business at a very young age, as I was embarking on college, I wasn't sure what should I major in finance? Should I major in marketing? Should I major in accounting, communications, manufacturing? What aspect should I really focus on? And I had some very good family friend who was working as a CPA, and she said that, look, Michael, finance is good, marketing is good, all those are good, but if you want to get a job, you should major in accounting. I thought, all right, I'm good with numbers and I do want a job. So I studied accounting in college, but because I like business in general, I didn't only focus on accounting. I really felt it was important to take classes outside of my focus. And I think that served me very, very well, especially communications classes in speech, classes in writing, understanding how to communicate via the written word and the spoken word. And today, when I speak to students, I tell them, look, if you're an accountant and you're interested in accounting, study that. It's technical, it's important, but you should, too many times accountants have the reputation for being very one-dimensional, very boring, very dull. And so you need to step out of that and understand that if you're going to be working with the people in marketing, you need to be able to communicate with them and relate to them. So take classes in marketing, take classes in speech, understand how to communicate with folks. And by conversely, when I'm talking to somebody who, I want to go into marketing and communications, I want to go into production systems or business management because they dream of being riding on the corporate jet or something like that, I ask them about how their accounting basis of knowledge is, and they said, well, I don't really, they don't really want to take that. And I really very much encourage them to do that because the financial statements of the company are essentially the medical chart of the company. They are the health of the company. And somebody once said that accounting is the language of business. And I've always said that if you're going to go into business, you should speak the language. Now, you don't have to go into public practice, but it is very important for you to understand that, because if you don't understand that, you will have to have somebody that you'll have to hire to translate that for you. So I've always felt it important to have a foot in both of those things. Then when I got my degree in accounting and I went into public accounting as a profession for many years, I had very low expectations, because I knew that I needed to, in the United States, in order to gain a CPA license, you had to work for at least 2 years in public accounting. And I thought I was going to set my timer for 2 years and count it down, because I really wanted to get into business and I wanted to do something for myself. But because nobody had said it was going to be interesting, and certainly they didn't tell me it was going to be fun. And they should have, because I had a terrific time, and I spent 7 years in public accounting, and my job was to go to companies that made everything from ballpoint pens to intercontinental ballistic missiles. I mean, I had customers that were companies that were restaurants, that were other service providers, that were in defense contractors. You know, small manufacturers, big manufacturers. And I learned that they were populated by people all trying to solve problems and work hard for their families and just do their jobs. And I had it in my head that the bigger the company, the more smooth and perfect that they were. And when I opened up the hood and got into some of these companies, I realized that no, not necessarily true. They have the same problems that little companies have, oftentimes bigger problems. So I really enjoyed getting to understand what happened in the production systems, walking the floor, looking at the people who made the products, looking at the raw materials and how they turned into finished goods, looking at the customer list and understand how the marketing worked. So I enjoy all those aspects of business. And I'll tell you that I had no personal interest in medicine at all. And when I was I live in Orange County, California, which is dominated by just small businesses across all industries. And I had the fortune of being a business generalist, and I stayed away from two industries: financial services and healthcare. And I find that particularly funny now because that's I'm here in the healthcare world.
I think interestingly, see, your destiny, you don't know where you're destined and where your work would be destined, and see the industry that you wanted to stay apart called you. But I want to just highlight the very important points that you touched when you were in your journey. And I've seen that very common in most of the innovators. They are curious. And I think that's the important thing, is you need to be curious. Yes, as you said, you need to shape yourself, learn to earn, right? It's one thing. Mm-hmm. But the whole personality need to be shaped. And that is where your extra out of the professional things that you're doing, you need to shape it, as you rightly said. Even if you're doing accounting, you need to take the speaking, all those other extra classes to just shape yourself proper as a business person. Business doesn't mean one aspect; it just comes from everything. You need to know how to sell. You need to know how to market. You need to know everything, right? When you're in a business, at least at the initial stage. When you grow, then it gets a little different. So I think from the day one, you were a businessman. Day two, you were a healthcare person, which you came to realize later. Talking about your initial days, now, with your foundation in financial management and corporate leadership, what was the catalyst that propelled you from the world of numbers and spreadsheet to the cutting edge realm of healthcare innovation, particularly in the development of groundbreaking medical technologies?
So like so many things in life, it's just serendipity and chance. I was working, after I left public accounting, I was generally the financial professional, either VP of finance, a corporate controller, chief financial officer of public and private companies in different industries, all pretty much here in Orange County. and had experience in doing business internationally, had experience with supply chains, and and just a lot of different things. And I always felt like I wanted to work in a company that was small enough where I individually could make a difference. And so I worked with companies that were a middle market, some larger, some smaller, and I was working in a private finance company that had a portfolio of companies all over the world. And it was like being in public accounting in that they weren't just clients, they were portfolio companies, and assessing M&A deals, doing diligence. It was really like open up the hood and walking the floor and doing all those things I started my career doing that I find so interesting. And then I had this fateful phone call from my father-in-law, who is at the time he's a pathologist. He's retired now, but he was on the faculty of UCLA and running pathology for a hospital in UCLA's network in Los Angeles. And he said, "Look, I just encountered some gentlemen who have something that I think is very, very interesting and I think important, and medically, I think it's very significant." And my father-in-law is a terrific guy, and I have a great deal of respect for his. And he explained to me what cytology was. That's a term I'd never heard in my career. And he explained it to me and explained what types of cancers are used. They use cytology, the study of cells, to look for cancer in patients and look for it early enough so that it can be treated easily with a good outcome. And he said, but these guys they have some technology that's medically and scientifically very, very interesting and innovative, but they don't really have a business around it. And perhaps you can talk to them. They're headquartered in Orange County. They're close by. So that was the start of what I would only call as a snowball rolling down the hill. And one thing, corporate finance company can help us raise some money. And I did some diligence and work, and I realized, well, they don't even have a company. And so we basically put together the company that is Resolution Biomedical as a result of those early meetings. And I became so enamored with the team, the very small team of guys, the pathologist and primary inventor, and who's now the chief medical officer, Dr. Williams, and his innovative view of this, and he and I work together very, very well. He's the medical technology, he's a medical professional, has years of experience, and has observed weaknesses in the market-leading products, and which essentially are opportunities for us to fix those weaknesses and build into our product set solutions that can essentially be, as a business guy, I'm like, is it faster? Is it better? Is it cheaper? That's the crux of it, right? If you have something and we have a product here that is faster, it's better, it's cheaper than the market leading technologies, and the addressable market is half the population of the world. Now, as an entrepreneur, I looked at the mirror and I said, oh my goodness, we have to find a way to build a company that can be successful, because you don't have opportunities like that come along all the time. And so that started us working together and forming the company that's called Resolution Biomedical. Kind of a need in the world, and I believe strongly that it will save lives, and it should be the standard across the world. And that's a big statement to say for a company that has essentially still a startup company after many years. So, I have want to tell people that I'm either visionary or delusional, and there's not really anywhere in the middle.
So I can definitely answer that from a medical standpoint, as a healthcare provider, being in the industry, worked in the international market, that you are a visionary, not a delusional here. We're talking about the story of getting from the finance and how that transition into the healthcare happened. It really explains the name Resolution Biomedical, because you're resolving the problems. I think your three things, which again resonate so well what we need in the healthcare is anything that has to be, as you're saying, it has to be faster, because faster is important to save lives. It has to be better, because otherwise we're dealing with human lives. And it has to be cheap, so that the equality in the healthcare, that most people can use it, because sometimes the thing could be faster, better, but if it's expensive, it gets a little, restricted by most of our population. Inspiring story, and such I think, a learning thing, that it's okay where you're starting, but you just don't know where you would end. Like, you started somewhere, now you ended into healthcare, solving problems. So talking a little bit more on Resolution Biomedical Inc., it has been a trailblazer in the field of cytology cancer screening technology since its inception in 2009, I believe. And so what inspired you to embark on this journey? You have touched a little bit, but if you can go a little deeper, if there's any personal story of into this journey, revolutionizing cancer screening with your product ClearPrep, and how does its development reflect your mission to provide superior, affordable healthcare solution? Could you share some key milestones and achievements that underscore the global impact of your work, especially in expanding access to critical diagnostic tools in developing medical markets?
Of course, and to highlight, you've taken me way back to the forming the name. There was a group of us guys were putting the company together and trying to come up with a name, and the name that we ended up selecting was, Resolution is the cancer screening of this type, cytology, is essentially using this is a microscope slide. And the microscope slide, you could only see the cancer if the cells are clear, and if they're properly stained and they're easy to see, and essentially they're high resolution. And so we thought, high resolution is something we want to communicate to everybody. So it gives it, and it also creates a resolution of a problem. We're also baseball fans, and Resolution Biomedical Inc. Initials are RBI, which is a baseball term. So it makes us all smile to ourselves all the time. But the thing that you talk about, we've had so many little victories along the way, that little moments that we feel like, hey, that's a good idea. How is it possible that nobody else has thought of that before? And it's about having opportunity, and then again being curious and being open to opportunity. The process for screening for multiple types of cancer, mostly I'm going to talk about cervical cancer, because that's the one with the greatest need, and that's our ultimate goal, to be a major player in that world. And you go from the patient going to her gynecology appointment, and they have to collect that sample that isn't very pleasant, I understand, and that sample gets from the patient, and it gets to the pathology laboratory, and those cells get onto a microscope slide, and the pathologist or the cytotechnologist looks in the microscope and looks for potential changes that could be potentially cancerous. Everything from getting that sample to getting it all the way to the laboratory and getting it onto a microscope slide are the steps that we looked at. Each step is an opportunity to lose the sample, drop the sample, make the sample less viable, make the cells less visible, or lose cells along the way. And so we looked at ways to there's lots of steps, and your chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And we looked at each link and said, well, what can we do? Can we collect a better sample? Can we put more samples into the vial that goes to the laboratory? Can we preserve those cells in a way that makes them easy to identify? Can we spread them out on the microscope slide so that they're in a single layer, and that makes it easy to spot? And so we looked at all of those things, and even to the point where we developed a microscope slide that is proprietary and unique. And Dr. Williams would often come up with identify a problem and say, well, maybe we should do that. And my initial reaction, as someone who comes from accounting, I'm like, well, that would be expensive. That's a bad idea. Or, oh no, it will never work. And then we would talk about it, usually over lunch, and then I would realize, wait a minute, there is a way to do this, and here's how. And one of the things that we did, the microscope slide was one of those things that took us multiple iterations to develop our custom slide. And you know what? I'm really proud of it because, you know, it's something that nobody else does, and it adds value, and even just a little bit, it makes a difference. If it makes a difference to your sister or your daughter or your cousin or your mom, and you can find that cancer easier, faster, sooner, then we will have done our job well. One of the other things that we had that our microscope slide sadly is not patented. We filed a patent application on it, but in the end, the patent office's job is to say no. And there was enough stuff, other patents that were close enough that it would have just been too big of a approach to try to push that. But they did the same for, we invented our own collection vial. So our product cells are collected in the office on a bristly brush, and are dispensed into a vial like this. This is our vial, the prep vial. And one thing happens with most pap samples is that the cells are collected from the patient. Some of the cells end up in one of these types of vials, and most of the cells are thrown away because most of the cells stick in the brush. This is the type of brush, and the cells will stick in the bristles and will get thrown away. And if the cells you really want to look at are still in the brush, pathologist is never going to see them. So we asked ourselves, how can we get more cells into the vial without having to go back and collect more, because nobody wants that. So Dr. Williams said one day, well, why don't we put a little ridge inside the vial? And I thought to myself, no, we don't want to have to buy a custom vial. We want to buy something that's easy and cheap, because in the end, I am an accountant. And we talked about that a little bit, and I realized that the way that again, it goes back to my walking on the factory floor, learning how things are made. I realized, wait a minute, injection molds can be made to put something inside. And so we came up with a vial that is very similar to other vials that are readily available, but ours has little ridges inside, little speed bumps, so that when you can hear this. So when it's got a little bit of 20 milliliters of preservative fluid inside. So when the brush goes inside and they swish it around, now we're not throwing away very many of the cells, maybe none. It does an amazing job of knocking those off. It's such a simple innovation. And somebody once said to me that the most brilliant ideas are the ones that seem obvious after you've heard them. And I think about this little innovation, and I think it's one of those brilliant ideas that, without wanting to flatter ourselves, it's a really good idea. And every time we show a clinical practitioner, yeah, this is why this vial is like this, and they go, what a great idea, because the doctors, the practitioners, they don't want to have the laboratory call them up and say, oh, sorry, we didn't get enough cells. You're going to have to call the patient back and take another test. And the doctor doesn't want to do that, and the patient really doesn't want to do that. So this eliminates that to a very, very great extent. And it's such a simple thing, and we're very proud of that. And that's one of the medical device patents that we have. And I'm proud to be a retread accountant and to have my name on as a co-inventor of that. One of the, of course, Dr. Williams is our chief medical officer, and this is really, our product set is really his life's work. And I feel like I'm a facilitator. I'm the one who figures out how we're going to do that and how it should look and work. But the idea, the inspiration comes from him. And he's a pathologist, a cytopathologist, has been looking at He's looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of Pap tests. Now the Pap test, one of the first things I wanted to know is, why is it called that? Like, it's cervical cancer, right? But where's the Pap? I took biology, didn't see a Pap anywhere. Well, it's named after the Greek doctor, Dr. Papanikolaou, who was the first one to identify a way to sample, stain, and screen cells and identify precancerous changes that can develop into cervical cancer, which at the time was one of the leading killers of women. From a cancer standpoint, it was a very, very bad problem, because if you can't see the cancer developing, it's going to be too late by the time it's symptomatic. And so the Pap test by itself, and they would literally, he would collect that and he would smear those cells onto a microscope slide. That's why it's called a Pap smear. And it is a very, very effective test. It's a 100-year-old technology and process, but it's been so useful in the world and very, very impactful. The Pap test has been one of the most effective tests ever devised. And for about 60 years, it was the only game in town. And in the late 1990s, a company out of Boston developed something that they named ThinPrep. Well, that's a really good name, because one of the problems with the old-fashioned Pap smear is that sometimes those the gynecologist that collected the sample would be creating the slide. Well, the gynecologist is never going to look at that slide because they don't do the pathology. So if they make that slide kind of thick, it's not their problem. It's the problem of the pathologist, because the pathologist or the cytotech at the lab has got to look for that cancer. And if the bad cells are hiding underneath blood cells or other types of cells, it's going to be impossible to see. So the concept of a thin preparation is a very, very good idea. So from a marketing and branding standpoint, the ThinPrep Pap test is very, very well marketed, I have to say. It's a good name. And the other thing that they did is they said, no, doctor, we want you to collect the sample, but we don't want you to smear it. We want you to swirl around into our little vial of alcohol. We have an alcohol-based preservative, and want you to swirl it around in there and send it to us, and we'll make the slide. And so that's the way it mostly worked. Well, so Dr. Williams has identified the way that the samples are collected and processed in the laboratory, and ultimately the slides are stained and cover slipped and then screened. And one of the problems is your slide is only as good as the sample that's collected. If the clinician does a really good job of collecting the sample and then makes a very good slide, it can be very, very effective. If the sample itself isn't very good, isn't very complete. Now the cervix and the uterus is about the size of a fist, and let's just imagine that that little spot right there is where they want to go. They got to bring that brush into there, twirl it around, and pull it out. And now you've got a potentially bloody or mucinous specimen that's also got multiple cell types, including the ectocervix. See, I got to remember which is ecto, which is endo. Endocervical canal is inside. The transformation zone is right here on the edge where one cell type turns into the other, and then the ectocervix is on the outside. And you want to sample, make sure all cell types are present. One of the things he observed, and he tested this in his own laboratory, is that this device would do a couple of things wrong. It would it would poke and create hemorrhaging, bleeding, and potentially pain for the patient. And then it would push inside and then swirl around and collect and pull out the sample. Now, you want to get cells from this edge spot, but he said, I think this is pushing cells inside, which is not what you want to do. So he tested this and put dye into a hysterectomized uterus that he was able to obtain, and then open them up and see that the cells had been pushed here. And he would sample them, the samples that were inside, and they contained cells that were from the outside, that to prove that they had been pushed in by the device. So the device that you're using to do your test is pushing away the cells that you want to test. It creates a situation where you just need a certain amount more luck than you really like to have if you want to have the result. So he invented a device called the Gynemed brush. That's this guy right here. Now the Gynemed brush has a similar type of a bristly brush. The bristles are wider at the bottom. He likes to describe it as like a little bit of a Christmas tree. But it also has this what's called a cannula. Well, the cannula is used to sheath and hide the bristles. So when the brush is inserted with the bristles sheathed, they're not creating the pain, they're not creating the bleeding, and they're put in place without moving the cells around. So then the doctor retracts the cannula. Now the bristles are right where they belong, right where they need to be, and now you can swirl that around and pull it out. So you don't create the blood, you don't create the pain, and you don't move the cells to where they want to be. And he tested this in his lab, and this is his device. I didn't invent this, but I like it a lot because I'm very impressed with how that works and so that is this is a device that he invented, is patented and FDA cleared for use. And it just makes so much sense to me that if you're going to have this done, you want to have a very, very robust and representative sample, because that's going to give you the best result for your health and safety.
What's the timing of us doing this podcast? We are in March, month of women's health, and we are talking about this really innovative product of yours. And again, as a physician, as a woman, it is definitely important. It's not only just very not pleasant, uncomfortable thing to do, but it's really important where you try, you cross all these barriers of uncomfort and hesitation, you go. But let's say if it's still not giving you the result because they are not done properly. Now, it's not sometimes the doctors, but the tools provided to them, if they are not right, everything goes in vain, right? So I always say, like, doctors are as good as the tools that they can use, right? We are dependent.
100%. That's exactly right.
So I think that's where you're solving this problem again. Out of, as you told us, your thing is, as a personality, you're a curious person. You not only just take problem at the end, you take the whole process, right? Okay, what steps that leads to this problem, and you work all those steps. This is amazing, especially the collector device of yours. Now, can you tell us where is it the retail device? Is it available in US or any other markets around the world?
So the Gynemed brush itself is cleared by the FDA, and it's available in the United States. It's not a retail price. You don't go to the doctor, you don't go to the pharmacy and pick up your own cervical sampling device. But the laboratory, our customers, we provide these to laboratory customers who have their individual medical clinicians that they service, and they typically provide. So the doctor's office, works with the laboratory and gets the collection supplies from the laboratory for whatever tests that they're going to do. If they're going to do blood testing, they get the syringes and things like that from the laboratory. That's typically how the clinical practices obtain their supplies, from the laboratory. So we sell to the laboratory provides to the doctor what he or she wants. And so so ClearPrep the rest of the slide making materials, the ClearPrep platform that we use to make those, that is not available specifically for cervical cancer testing in the United States yet. The ClearPrep platform is available in the United States for general cytology practices. However, we are not able to market for cervical screening, which is, I think, the most important end game for us because of regulatory reasons, and that we're working on in the next 12 to 24 months to have that fixed and obtained so we can market broadly. Internationally, we have worked with distribution partners and medical professionals in 20 countries around the world. We are actively shipping to and distributed in about a half a dozen countries, where I traveled last year to India, and I'm hoping to develop some relationships that will be able to allow us to commercialize our product there. We're in regulatory approvals right now in Mexico. And so I'm hopeful that we will be able to start commercializing the product. As a businessman, I want to commercialize the product as fast as I can. But also, as someone who cares about healthcare provision, I think there's a tremendous opportunity. So the market, the Pap testing in the United States is very, very well established. And this liquid-based cytology is what they call the thin prep we talked about. That's the market leader. There's another competing product called SurePath, and these are their collection vials. There's a big one and a small one, and really they have about almost all of the United States market. Very, very few of the old-fashioned conventional Paps. Now, these products do a very nice job in some cases. They are machine-based. So at the laboratory, the clinician puts the sample into the vial and sends it to the laboratory. And the laboratory has a big piece of equipment, a piece of capital equipment that they had to invest in, and they use that equipment to extract the cells and put them onto the microscope slide. Eventually, that slide will be screened by a pathologist or a cytotech, just like the other ones. But that big piece of equipment is very expensive, and the consumables that are used, the products that are consumed in creating that slide, are also expensive. For the United States market, the ClearPrep product will be, I think, a game changer in that it will remove the expensive capital equipment. And it will still provide a better result. We believe better result. Now, outside the United States, almost nobody uses liquid-based cytology at all because it's very expensive. The capital equipment is expensive to obtain. You have to service it. You have to buy the supplies, and it's just cost prohibitive in many low-resource environments. Our ClearPrep was approved in Tanzania recently, and we believe that that should get started rolling throughout sub-Saharan Africa. And it's important because we know today that one or more versions of human papillomavirus, HPV, causes most cervical cancers. And understanding whether an abnormal Pap is related to HPV or not is very useful, because if it's HPV positive, that abnormality is very potentially going to turn into a cancer, and the clinician will want to know that and perhaps intervene. If it's an abnormal slide, but nobody's sure why, and there's a category called abnormal, but we're not sure why. It's called ascus. If it's an ascus Pap and there's no HPV present, then they're usually going to wait and watch. So that's really useful to know. Now, you can't do an HPV test on a conventional Pap slide. The microscope slide is already a microscope slide, and all you can do is look in the microscope. And so if you don't have that 1-2 punch of the test for the STI to be able to properly assess treatment. So the other countries would love to use liquid-based cytology, but it's just too expensive. So here we are with a product that eliminates the capital equipment. Our product uses this reagent, this little blue chemical that will help, that causes the cells to slide off of one another and seek the glass individually. That eliminates that very expensive machinery and eliminates a great deal of the cost. So we're the enabling technology for low resource environments. And so we believe that while in the United States we're going to save some folks some money, we think it's going to be a terrific opportunity to save money and improve care. Outside the United States, we think it's going to be very impactful, because we're going to open up access to world-class care to women that didn't have access to it at all. And that's what really makes me very excited. And even as a businessman, I'd rather create a product and a company that's successful doing something that's good. There's lots of things you can do in the world that are not very good that might make a lot of money, but I'd rather do something that's good and feel good about the contribution to humanity that we're doing.
It's amazing, especially I think you are trying to do good, but you are trying to do it globally, and I think that is the essence. I mean, in healthcare, that is with my experience in international market, each market has their own vacuums, own restrictions. In US, we have our own, right? When you go to India, you go to Russia, every country struggling with its own thing. And I think the major thing when we go outside United States is access to the quality care, quality resources is there. And again, if you bring the quality resources there, then they are very expensive for people to afford there. And that's where we need quality, but with affordable. And I think your device, especially, the cervical cancer is a really growing cancer. The bad part is the very fastest growing. It's really growing. But the good part is it's preventable.
Yeah.
It's the best about this cancer. If you can get it screened, diagnosed early, it can be prevented. There are even vaccines for it, right now. So it's a very preventable cancer, but we are talking about something which is quite stigmatic in many countries. So that's another struggle when we are talking about this particular cancer. Most of the cancers you hear, it gets sympathy, right? We are like, oh, sympathetic. This one, people really don't understand, the full span. And because of the lack of knowledge and awareness, it is taken into a different direction. So a lot of women keeps it like, it's really hard for them to go to the doctor on the very first place, and to keep going to the doctor to do the screening over and over again. It's really makes it very hard. So I think what you are developing with Clear Prep, it is you're saving lives of these women in the countries, providing them the quality care, but also saving them from the physical and social pain. Let's say this way. I think in your journey, you said you went to India recently. I'm from India. That is the country I was born in. I was raised there, studied there before I came to United States. So tell me about your experience in India.
I'm one of those people that looks at travel as a get to, not a have to. And so I will get on a plane. If there's an opportunity to go somewhere, I am looking for a way to say yes. And I had the tremendous fortune to be able to go with Dr. Bhatt to Delhi. We went to Delhi, to Agra, and to Lucknow. And of course, Agra is famous for having the Taj Mahal there. And I found myself standing there looking at this majestic world, wonder of the world. And I just found myself so humbled and so small and standing amongst this amazing history. But also was just an amazing place to be. And again, for an American from the Midwestern part of this country to be able to see, I tell people here, I said, hey, how we have squirrels running around the streets here? They have monkeys. I went in May and it was very hot. But the people were so warm and friendly, and I tried all kinds of different foods that I'd never had, and I found it to me culturally just wonderful. People were very welcoming and very friendly, and I think there could be a real opportunity to do good works for the people of India. So I'm hopeful to be able to go back.
Really happy, and I think I'm thankful at the same time that you were able to do that, because we need it there. India needs it, like equally. Obviously India is a very, very growing, fast growing country right now, but still we have rural India, which makes 70% of the country. So all the advancement are currently happening only in the urban part of the
Right.
country. Rural is still into its behind, I would say 10-20 years to access to such thing.
Sure.
Bringing such thing, I think you're really making that reach to remote areas. Knowing the healthcare system of the country, this is going to revolutionize As I said, I know a few markets internationally which I worked. Africa, you already identified. Congratulations, you got approved in Tanzania with a partnership. India, I think you are in the right direction with Dr. Bhatt, which is a common friend of ours also, Dr. Hitesh Bhatt with his Bhatt Foundation. He's doing amazing job
Amazing job.
bringing healthcare innovations to India and to other parts of the world that needs it. I think he's doing an amazing job with his foundation and partnering with the innovators like you. So one more point, I think, during, as you said, how you can get access to the product. Obviously, it's not a retail product that, as a consumer, you can go and like, hey, this is what I want you to use it.
Right.
At the same time, what I always like to tell patient is like, you still have a say of what to use, right?
Sure.
It's not, they don't blindfold you while they're doing a procedure, right? And especially this procedure doesn't put you in a general anesthesia.
No.
In fact, not in any kind of anesthesia. It is important to be aware, and sometimes doctors really don't know what tools are available outside, right? It is what the laboratory has provided them.
Right.
If they know about this product, right, as they are hearing from you, hearing at our podcast, if they see that the product that is used during their pap smear, they can first of all ask the doctor, what are you using? Can we know it?
Sure.
And have an opportunity to tell about this product, because then this doctor can go to the lab, tell the lab, hey, is this possible something to do this tools or resources to work with? So there's always an opportunity where the consumer, the end consumer, which is a patient here, has a say.
It's absolutely true, and that's exactly how ThinPrep marketed themselves when they were approved by the FDA. So, we're going to follow that playbook when the time comes for us. And so once the FDA has approved us to market ClearPrep for cervical screening, we are going to, subject to whatever once that's approved for marketing, we're going to do exactly that. We're going to market to the gynecologists and also to the patients to say, look, what kind is it? What are you doing? Is a patented vial available? Because I don't want you throwing my sample away. Any of those types of things that we're allowed to say, we're going to say them, and we're going to stand up on top of the mountain and shout it very loud, because we've been working for a long time for that opportunity. And so, with good luck and tailing winds, we'll be able to do that next year at some point. And we believe at that point we'll be able to start going from being a company with big dreams to being a company with big success.
And we all will be hooting for it.
Thank you.
Because you are bringing a product that is needed, well needed. So, as I said, this is the product, this is the company with the purpose that you have built. So all our wishes is there. Again, as a medical fraternity, as a medical company, we would like to join hands when the time is right in order to spread this awareness. I mean, we talked with this product how you're, talking about how to be used locally in United States and globally. Now, bridging the gaps, at MediPocket, we are a cross-border care platform, bridging the gap in specialty care by connecting international patients to specialized care in the United States, starting from remote second opinion consultations, treatments, and clinical trials. So in a similar vein, I know we touched a little bit, but how is Resolution Biomedicals work, especially with ClearPap, contributing to closing this healthcare disparities, particularly in diagnostics? You have shared a lot, but is there something that you could share more tangible outcomes you have witnessed from your efforts in advancing this cytology cancer screening technology, either locally or internationally?
So if I understand your question, what we've seen, and again, I come in as a business person, and if I see a product that is the only differentiating factor is that it's less expensive, that can be very important, but it's not as exciting to me as something that can do something that's important and different. And, again, it comes to diagnosing. The only reason that this type of screening exists is to find the cancers before it becomes untreatable. It's the only goal, right? Nothing else. And so if there's a way to improve that, without being, putting a cost out of reach, then we should look for ways to do that. That needs to happen in the world. And so here's an opportunity to do better at the same time of lowering price. Well, that's very, very important and compelling. And what we found is that, the cancer is only as diagnosable as it's visible. Mm-hmm. Because cervical cancer is diagnosed by a professional looking through a microscope and looking for cellular changes. And if the cellular changes are not visible because the sample is not well preserved, if the sample is too clumpy, if the cells have become brittle and have broken, if the machines that are making the samples have altered the morphology or the shape of the cells, if those things occur, it makes it very difficult for the screener to look and spot those things. So the goal for us is to see how closely the cells can get onto the microscope slide and look still like the cells that they look in the body. And we believe our process does that better than anybody. And as a result, side-by-side testing that we've done has shown results are very, very promising. That we show that there are fewer rejected samples because there were inconclusive. There are fewer fewer samples that have those so-called ASCUS, which stands for abnormal squamous cells of unknown significance. Now that means that something's going on, but we don't know what. And so they call it that, and it's a signal to look for maybe HPV or do a wait and watch or something. We see for ClearPrep slides, those are lesions that need to be acted upon promptly because we can detect that, or they're actually some sort of benign process that is not a problem at all. So you don't need to scare the patient by giving her a false positive. So we believe that our product has higher resolution so you can see what's going on. Now, going forward, the technology is advancing in many different areas, and one of the places where we're seeing a bringing together of technology and practice is digital pathology. So the notion that you can create a ClearPrep, you can create a cytology slide, put it onto a machine to do a scan, and then pull up the scan on a computer screen anywhere else in the world and be able to look at look for the potential cancerous changes. That's going to be something that's going to be in practice. It's not really in practice yet because technology is not quite there yet, but that will be a thing. And then at some point, using AI to help the screener screen that technology is also going to be a thing. I don't know when, but I tell you what, it's only going to be as good as the sample it allows it to be. If the sample is clumpy, if it's crowded, if it's poorly preserved, that scan isn't going to be a very good image. We've all seen old photographs that are scanned, and we see new digital photographs that are as clear as can be. And so you want the good quality photograph, and so that comes down to the quality of the slide. And we believe our game is second to none. And the slide, when you look at it, the cells are next to each other, they're well preserved, they're well stained, and you can scan one time. We did a project with UCLA some years ago where they were trying to pilot this, where they were collecting samples in China, and they were making the slides there and doing a scan. And those scans they were SurePath, one of the SurePath technologies. Those cells, those slides had 7 or 8 different focal points. And so which one do you scan? Do you scan them all? And you have to look at 8 of them or 7 of them? Or do you pick one and you hope that's where the cancer is? The ClearPrep slide's one focal point. Easy to see, easy to screen, and easy to digitize. So we think that our technology is going to be right where the nexus of AI and digital imaging is going to be in play. And so we think we want to make sure that we're looking out for that as that comes online.
Amazing. And I think this is another very big revolutionary thing that, when you're going to combine this whole process of yours and put that digitized, because it will take the barriers away. And while you were describing whole process, I'm all about integrating of healthcare and AI and the removing the borders. And again, someone in remote area, you can really train a healthcare provider in the remote areas with the right tools, how to collect the sample. That's not a rocket science.
Right.
Reading them is a rocket science, right?
Right.
So what can be done by the specialist sitting anywhere in the world, because what is done, it is put into the machine, and then the machine is making that thing available digitally to anywhere, removing the restriction of specialist or...
Absolutely right.
So this is amazing. And again, when you're saying AI is advancing crazily, right? I mean, the pace it's advancing, I think the people who are developing it is not able to keep up with that. But this is going to happen sooner than you think, with the integration of AI. And while you were talking, we actually have our own project, which is called Dr. AI. And the purpose of Dr. AI, again, he is not going to diagnose anyone, but what he's going to do, he will be the physician assistant to the patient and augmenting doctors in literally doing what with the clear prep you're doing is like, ours is a little bit non-invasive. The information will be collected based on the data of the medical data that we have of the patient that they give and that they don't give, but the data that we collect very intensively, and then able to give them the probability of what the type of, if they have a cancer probability, right? Cancer screening, and then direct them to the test like yours. Hey, yes, there is a probability. Go do a clear pep test, right? Go do the pap smear, but use this and this one. So that is great achievement, because I think the world is going more towards preventative care, predictive care.
Yep.
The care, obviously, we need to get our sick care model more. I mean, it's good, but we definitely can do better. But preventative and predictive care is something that not just the patient, I think the patients still don't understand, but the doctors are understanding, the healthcare providers, and they are pushing. We really don't want, because I think the norm was for the doctors, they want you to be sick because that's how the business goes. But the reality is they want the preventative care involves doctors equally as in the case of a sick care. So we want you not to get sick. We want the preventative care and predictive care. And that's what I think the ClearPep with your digital technology is going to revolutionize. So again, something to look forward. Once it's out, I think the world will be waiting for it. Again, you're touching on a cancer, cervical cancer, which is very sensitive, very preventable, and very fast growing. So
very curable.
Very curable.
Very curable. If it's caught right. And just let me be clear though, we're not the technology provider of the digital imaging, but we are an enabler. So for the companies that are developing that type of technology, we would be the perfect group to partner with, because they're developing the AI and the screening technology and the slide scanning technologies. We're not building that, but we are the ones that would make the slides that would work best with their technologies. So we would work with any company that does that.
And I think, that's called for collaboration. Healthcare is all about collaborations, right?
That's right.
So, and again, the piece that you will be providing is very important for the AI to run, because AI is as smart as what you feed them, right? That's what it is. Right. So that's where your very important piece comes in, that training that with the right quality, the data, which is your slides will be providing. And as you're pointing out about, instead of having 8 focal points, getting everybody confused where to focus, it's like, hey, this is the one. Let's dig into that one. So amazing. Now, I think let's take a little more lighter note things. And I'll take you a little bit, if you could step back in time and have a conversation with one healthcare pioneer or inventor, who would it be? And why? And what would be that one burning question you would pose to them?
Boy, that is a really, really good question. And as someone who spent most of his career or the beginning of his career not interested or curious about healthcare, um, I'm going to be struggling to come up with somebody that would be in there. I know that Thomas Edison invented a lot of things. He was instrumental at the beginnings of electric power, and if anybody wants to be fascinated by the intrigue of technologists, have a look at the Edison versus Nikola Tesla, AC versus DC technology. But I know that Edison developed some technologies that were used in medicine, and I would love to talk to that guy because he had, you talk about a curious mind, and a curious mind looks for, he was the one that said that inspiration, what is it? Inventing is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. I think that was attributed to him. And boy, that's right. They call it, we do a lot of trial and error. And that's how you solve problems. You try stuff and you see what works. Well, I noticed that it's not called trial and success. It's called trial and error. So error is an integral part of the inventing process. And I think that Edison knew that because, the anecdotes about him are all over the place. He's a well-known individual, but I think it'd be fascinating to find out. He said something that doesn't work, and you'd say, "Well, it doesn't work." He said, "Oh no, I didn't find out that it didn't work. That it doesn't work. I just found out one way that it doesn't work. I'm going to try it another way now, and I'm going to try another way." And I'm not one of those people that has yet to, on his own. I've never figured out how to solve the Rubik's Cube on my own. So I use that as a metaphor for, well, let's just Rubik's Cube it. Let's just keep twisting. Let's keep twisting it and try it and try a different combination and see what works. And, we have in our little, we're a small company but we have big dreams. But we've had some things that we've developed some things that I'm personally very, very proud of on a professional level. And from a curiosity standpoint, to be able to say, you know what, we figured that out and I feel really good about it because it just took that kind of Rubik's cubing to figure out how to make something work and find a need uh, to solve a problem for someone in need. And I think that's a very satisfying, at the end of the day, it's a very satisfying thing to have been able to do.
And it is. I mean, you really are giving back to the women. Like, you're not like, what I mean by that is like we all are surrounded by, right? Mothers, wife,
Sure.
daughters, friends, sisters. So you're really kind of it's uplifting, right? You're really making a big difference, impacting that to to make their life right, healthy and better.
Yep. It's
So
It's true, and I'll share a very short story that was one of the moments along our journey that told me that I feel like it told me very clearly that we're on the right path. Is that we were in the middle of our product development cycle with the different components and the preservatives and the slides and all this kind of stuff. We talk about it now, but it took a course of a long time. One of my very, very good friends from a previous life, from a previous business called me and said, my mom has just been diagnosed with cervical cancer. She's been diagnosed with a high-grade interepithelial lesion and that she's going to have surgery next week. And I said, oh no, your mom is wonderful. I love her. And I'm so sorry to hear that. What do you want me to do? And he said, well, can you guys talk to her? And I said, well, sure, but we're a manufacturing company. We're not the healthcare provider. But of course, I put her in touch with Dr. Williams. We spoke with her, and we had her lab sent over, and she had a very, very good laboratory with a good reputation using the market leading technology. And sure enough, high grade interepithelial lesion. Dr. Williams looked at the slide and said, there's something going on here. But if it were my wife or my sister, I would say cancel the surgery and have a clear prep slide taken. And so she did. And so, long story short, when the clear prep sample came in, it was very, very clear. She didn't have cancer at all. She never had cancer. She didn't need the surgery. She didn't have to become high risk for the rest of her life. She didn't have to have monitoring to follow up. She had a very benign condition that was thought to be rare, but indeed was not rare at all. It's only rare because it can't be spotted using the other technologies. Our technology allowed that to be seen and understood to be not a problem. So my friend's mom is healthy and happy today. And had she been and her point was, hey, if I had been of childbearing age and had to have that procedure, it could have impacted my future ability to ever carry a baby to term. And I thought, my goodness, that's right. And if it's happening to somebody that I know it's happening around the world. It's happening around the world more often than we all want to admit. So in that moment, of course, I was thrilled that we were able to help my friend's mom. I mean, it just makes me feel right. But I also know that from a company standpoint, we were on the right track and that we have an important mission that we have to just keep at it until we get it right, until we're able to tell our story more broadly. So that is why we continue to soldier on and continue to fight our way through, because we think that are other Sallys out there that need what we have to offer.
I think there are millions of Sallys out there that need that. And this story emphasized one more point, which again, I'm correlating a lot from my own purpose, is second opinion. What she did out, not what the son
Right.
did,
Yeah.
is asked you for a second opinion. That saved her from the surgery, that saved literally from any cancer kind of a treatment, chemotherapy, all the like saved it and made her life like, that, hey, you don't have to be scared. And I think that's another thing. As a medical person, which we understand bigger difference what the second opinion. Second opinion is literally talk to another doctor,
Yeah,
right?
of
And
course.
consult them that, hey, is this the right diagnosis or the treatment I'm going to? And that is exactly what happened. Dr. Williams was able to give a second opinion, looking at it, and it made the completely north and south difference there. So again, I mean, again, you are really on a big purpose. Um,
What was important, like you said something earlier about you're only as good as the tools you have available to you, because the Sally's practitioner, her clinician was a good top shelf clinician. The laboratory was a good laboratory. Nobody was out looking to make a mistake, and so all we were able to do is offer another tool to share, and again, we're not making medical diagnosis, but offering a technology for someone else to use to do a better job screening and to have a very clear view of that. And it was kind of funny because not only was Sally not a cancer patient, she's now an investor in our company. So we're very happy to have her on board and tell her story.
I think if you take it to the crowdfunding platform, you will get millions users plus million investors because people want to come to the
There
to
you
the
go.
so
Yeah.
I mean something to think. But
Yeah.
again, the purpose that you are, I think people who would be listening, they definitely are. Some may have experienced already, as a healthcare provider, as a patient, as a caregiver, and some would be like, hey, this can make a very big difference because it's all about, as you're saying, nobody's making a mistake, but if the tools or the resources are not right, both the ends do not get the full benefit of it. So
Right.
I'll take you a little bit now into the future. We went to the back, came to the present, now we go to the future. Now, if you could endow one healthcare technology with a superpower to transform healthcare in the USA and in the United States and globally, what it would be and why, and how would this groundbreaking innovation, the superpower, address a particular challenge facing both in America and international healthcare systems?
Again, I don't see myself as a future thinker or a visionary, but I think I observed that one of the greatest problems societally is obesity. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that across the United States and across the world. And the because the morbidities that come along with the comorbidities that come along with that as life goes on with that, the diabetes and things like that can be very significant. The heart disease and things like that. And obviously, there's a component of lifestyle and choices and nutrition and things like that. But if there really was a magic technology to help people stay in the right size, healthy body, you know, that's a huge industry already, and I don't know any of them that really work that well. So if I were able to tap into something like that, I think that A, it would be a very successful business, and B, if it was really functional, if it really worked, I think you could do a lot of good in the world.
Wow, that's very interesting answer, because generally I get the answers very different. It's very, but you really took it to the level, hey, how about we completely take out the root cause only? Which, to be honest, obesity is the root cause of various
A
critical,
lot.
a lot of critical diseases. And you're like, hey, I will use that one magic wand, the superpower, to literally take that root cause away and make a big.
You said magic wand, so I'm like, well, okay, if I'm going to use a magic wand, that's what I would do because I think it would impact a large percentage of certainly the American population and I imagine around the world as well. But that's a magic wand, and in advance of the magic wand, I'm going to go take a walk and maybe not have French fries for my lunch.
And I know you are very I can call you an athlete because I know a little bit about you. That you really take care, because as a healthcare innovator, right? You're not a healthcare professional, but now you're a healthcare innovator. This vertical called you. You really preach what you believe and you do it. I know you take a very good care of your body. You are a very regular runner every day. I believe that you
Every
have
day.
to run. you know
Yep.
so, so that's something. I think, again, I think you're using the superpower, what you believe will make the change, because that's what you do. Without the one, you take care of yourself every day.
Well, the wand, if I really was being selfish, the wand would be to help me be faster than like I was when I was in my 20s. But absent that, I do run, and I think that that's a has provided me tremendous social and health benefits that I recommend to anybody at whatever speed. I'm not as fast as I was when I was younger, but I still enjoy the social aspect of it, and I like the competitive aspect of getting out there and rubbing shoulders with other folks that are trying to do their best.
I mean, we can really talk to you, Michael, we can go for hours, because there's so much to learn. There's so much to know, about you, about your vision, about the purpose-built company that you're doing. But as we are concluding our enlightening conversation, we would like to ask, what advice would you impart to our healthcare enthusiasts, from aspiring innovators to experienced leader, on the critical role of innovation in healthcare? And what wisdom can you share for those aiming to make a significant impact in this field of healthier future?
I think it transcends industry because I think that it was just luck that found me in this industry, and I think I would take a similar approach at whatever industry to, look to do well by doing good. You can do that in multiple fields. And I think that what strikes me as, for people that are perhaps aspiring to go into business and want to think about, what should I do? I saw a recent documentary on our former governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and one of the things that his philosophies is to be useful. And I thought I like that. I like that. Be useful. Go be useful. And I'd say also, to be curious. But if you're looking for opportunities to be useful and you're curious, I think you'll find opportunities that will present themselves that you can apply yourself to. And then also just for me, my own personal view is to don't be afraid to try hard. Sometimes people get daunted by something that seems like a big challenge, and they just don't think that their own ability, their own contribution will be sufficient. But to don't be afraid to just try hard, put themselves out there, and you'll never know if that door will open unless you push on it.
Thank you, Michael, for your invaluable insights. And to our audience, let's take this inspiration and actively engage in transforming the healthcare landscape to be more accessible, effective, and innovative. If you're ready to be part of this change, we encourage you to join the dialogue and contribute to the advancement of healthcare. So, until our next episode of MedLife Scoops, stay inspired and dedicated to making a meaningful impact in healthcare. Follow us on our social media channels and subscribe to our podcast for more innovative discussions like this one.